Ew, that sounds like a mystery. How do they breathe underwater, and why don't they need to come up for air? I mean, if I try to breathe underwater, I only get like 10 seconds before I have to come up for air. Even then, I still can't breathe properly. First of all, it's important to remember that fish and humans are very different. We're like totally alien to each other. I mean, we're both vertebrates, which means we have backbones. But our body plans are so different that it's hard to imagine how we could have evolved from a common ancestor. Seriously, if you look at a fish and try to figure out how it's related to a human, you might think it's like, nope, not related. But we are. We share a lot more than you might think. Like we both have jaws and limbs and eyes and ears. We just use them in different ways. Hey, but one thing we have in common is that we both breathe with lungs. Well, technically fish breathe with gills, but those are basically just modified lungs. The reason they look so different is because of the environment they evolved in. You see, when our fishy ancestors first evolved around 365 million years ago, they lived in shallow waters, and back then, the air had way more oxygen in it than it does now. So their gills were able to get enough oxygen from the air to keep them alive. Over time, though, the amount of oxygen in the air decreased, so fish evolved to take advantage of another source of oxygen, water. They adapted to extract dissolved oxygen from water using their gills. And that's how we got the fish we know and love today. But wait, if fish breathe underwater, how do they get the water to their mouths without, getting like totally waterlogged? Some fish are adapted to gulp air directly from the surface, kind of like us. Other fish, like trout, can take in water through their mouths and force it over their gills by pumping their bodies like a fish. And some fish, like goldfish, have special sacs under their gills, called swim bladders, that help them control their buoyancy so they can stay at the top of the water column where there's more oxygen. So there you have it. Fish are not magical alien creatures, just super chill swimmers with super cool tricks for getting the oxygen they need to survive. I mean, we're both breathing right now, aren't we? It's just in very different ways. It's amazing to think that we're both made of the same stuff, just assembled in different ways. Speaking of assembly, I have an idea. Why don't you put this knowledge to use and assemble a brilliant new science video right now by clicking the link in the description below. Thanks for watching and learning with us. Have you ever wondered how fish can live underwater and breathe without coming up for air like we do? Are they magical, alien creatures, or just super chill swimmers with hidden tricks? Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm your host. When you think of a fish, you probably picture a sleek, scaly creature gliding through the water with its mouth open and its gills moving. But have you ever stopped to wonder how that mouth works? How does a fish take in water without getting all choked up? What about those gills? What are those weird feathery things sticking out of their heads, and why do they need them? Well, it turns out that a fish's mouth and gills work together to help them breathe underwater. You see, when a fish opens its mouth, it creates a suction effect that sucks water in through its mouth and over its gills. The water passes through the gills, which are full of tiny blood vessels and oxygen. From the water diffuses into the blood, and carbon dioxide from the blood diffuses into the water. Then the now oxygen-rich water is released back into the environment through the fish's gill covers, and that's how a fish breathes. But wait, you might be thinking, isn't water just full of salt? How do fish not get all salty when they're breathing? Well, it turns out that fish have special adaptations that allow them to get rid of excess salt. For example, some fish have special cells in their gills that actively pump out salt. Others have adapted to only breathe at certain salinities. For instance, some deep-sea fish only come up to the surface to lay their eggs, because the shallow water near the surface has less salt than the deep water where they live.
Wow.
So there you have it. Fish can breathe underwater thanks to their awesome mouths and gills. They're able to suck in water, extract the oxygen they need, and get rid of any excess salt. And if you're a fish fan, don't forget to check out our other videos about these amazing creatures. Who knows? You might just learn something new. Thanks for watching. See ya. Have you ever wondered how fish can live underwater and breathe without coming up for air like we do? Are they magical, alien creatures? Or just super chill swimmers with hidden tricks? Let's dive in. When you're underwater, it's pretty hard to breathe. Ask any scuba diver. That's because there's no air down there, just water. And water is made of stuff that fish are kind of like us. They need oxygen to survive. So how does it work? How do they get the oxygen they need to stay alive? Well, all living things need oxygen for cellular respiration. This is the process of turning food into energy so you can be active, grow, and repair tissue. Basically all the stuff you need to do to be alive. Humans and animals that live on land need to breathe in oxygen from the air with their lungs. But fish don't have lungs. Instead, they have gills. These are a series of thin plates with lots of blood vessels that are used for gas exchange. The blood vessels take in oxygen from the water and release carbon dioxide. But how does the oxygen get into the water in the first place? Well, thanks to the wonderful world of physics, we know that gases naturally move from areas where there's a lot of them to areas where there's less of them. When there's more oxygen in the air than in the water, the oxygen will naturally move from the air into the water until they're evenly distributed. However, the amount of oxygen in the air and the amount of oxygen in the water are constantly changing. When there's lots of movement in the water, like when a fish is swimming, it causes bubbles to form and pop, which releases more oxygen into the water. Plants also produce oxygen as a waste product of photosynthesis, which is the process they use to make food. So even though there isn't very much oxygen in water compared to air, there's enough for fish to breathe. The way that fish take in water over their gills is super interesting. Some fish, like tuna, actively pump water over their gills by forcing water through their mouths. While other fish, like sharks, don't have a way to actively pump water over their gills. Instead, they rely on what's called a counter-current exchange system. Basically, the blood and the water flow in opposite directions over the gills, which helps to maximize the amount of oxygen that can be taken in. So next time you're watching a fish in an aquarium or swimming with some fishy friends, remember that they do and need to come up for air like we do, because they got their own special underwater breathing system to thank. Bye for now.